and welcome to the Mum Boss Method podcast, where my microphone is right in front of my face, so I just need to move that. I hope that you are having a wonderful, glorious week and that the sun is a little bit shining wherever you are. I've had a glorious day. I've had my hair coloured and a blow dry. We love that for me. Today's podcast is for those of you who may want to lose some weight for summer. Okay. I am aiming to lose between 4 and 5 kilograms. So that's 8 to 10 pounds by July. And so I thought I would share with you what I'm doing and some of the things I'm considering as a menopausal woman. Okay, so this is appropriate for you whether you are post-menopause, but some of the things that I'm considering I think will be really good for you to hear, because you may be facing some of the same challenges that I face, managing symptoms, etc. Okay. Now, why am I talking about this? I'm talking about this because I know from my own experience of the last 10 years that when I entered into perimenopause, and I should say that I didn't know I was perimenopausal at the time, I just felt like things were really, really hard. Now, I had struggled with my weight for my whole adult life. Actually, looking back at pictures of me in my 20s and parts of my 30s, I now see that I saw something very different in the mirror to what was actually there. But I know that in the last few years, I have gotten into the best shape of my life. And that includes when I was, in my 20s and 30s. And I'm going to be, how old? I nearly said 36, 46. I'm going to be 46 in June. So I'm going to explain to you exactly what I'm doing, so that you can think about how this might apply to you. Now, like I said, things definitely have felt different for me in the last 10 years. But again, another layer of difference when it comes to fat loss in the last maybe 3 or 4 years. That doesn't mean that fat loss, weight loss is impossible when you hit, peri and post menopause. But let's go through the steps that I am taking in order to do this. So first thing is really important, and that is calories. Okay, I remember the days of trying to diet, and remember, I am not a very tall woman. I'm 5'3" in the morning. I'm about 5'2.5" in the evening. But I remember trying to diet on 1,000, maybe 1,200 calories when I was a lot younger. And I went through stages where I tried to keep it under 1,000 as well. Now, there are occasions when a woman may need to diet on quite low calories, but one of the things I'm going to say to you is I bet the calories that you can successfully diet on are going to be higher than you think they are. And that's because one of the things that we tend to do is we think, like, if you're using MyFitnessPal, you log into MyFitnessPal, it automatically, and it very rarely changes from this, it gives you like a 1,200, 1,300 calorie allowance. And it doesn't really matter how tall you are and how active you are, it just kind of starts from there. So we all think we have to be on these really, really super low calorie diets. And here's the thing that I know, both as a coach who helps women to lose weight, both in my own experience of myself and helping other people, is that if we start super low, where else can we go? So firstly, super low calories are really, really hard to stick to. But not only that, so it's hard to stick to them, but if that works and then stops working, the only place you can go is lower. Okay, and I don't know about you, but I would prefer to be dieting on as high calories as possible. Now, of course, there is a way to lose, there are lots of ways to lose body fat without tracking your food and counting your calories. And I have lots of clients that don't track their food. I actually don't have a problem with tracking my food. I tend to eat the same food day in, day out with changes to dinner. I tend to be able to eyeball my amounts of food reasonably well. I still keep my kitchen scales out all the time. But I'm fairly good at knowing, what a chicken breast weighs, how much is 40 grams of dry rice, how much is 50 grams of oats. I'm really quite good at that because I've been doing it for a long time. So you can lose weight without tracking calories. I don't mind tracking calories, and actually something that I say to a lot of my clients is, even if you track them just for a couple of days so that you've got an idea of what you're eating, or if you don't want to input your calories and your food into an app, at least weigh out and write down what you're eating across a couple of days. It's really helpful. What can be measured can be managed. So that is one of the things that I think is really important. If you were, for example, you kept going overdrawn on your bank account, right? You would look at what's going in and what's coming out. Hopefully, unless you're a bury your head in the sand kind of person, but you would look at what's coming in and coming out, because what can be measured can be managed, right? You can manage it if you are looking at what's going on. So that's the thing that I really want you to think about, is not to go super low on your calories. My calories are not, at the moment, too far below my maintenance calories. Okay, I'm in a fairly small calorie deficit, and I'm still losing body fat. And that's really important, like I said, because if you are dieting on low calories, where else is there for you to go? So this, obviously, I'm not going to tell you my calorie amounts because that's not useful. We are different height, different ages, different weights, different activity levels. But I would like you to think about how you are working out those calories. Are you just taking what an app tells you, or are you using the information? Like, I have a calorie calculator. If you want it, you can just message me and say calories. But I want you to just remember that you don't need to go super low. One of the things that I often get asked and even told is that, in menopause, your metabolism slows down. Your metabolism gets slower as you get older. And to a certain extent, that is true, right? It is true. You do burn fewer calories as you get older. The reason for that is that naturally we lose muscle mass as we get older. And this then means, because muscle is a metabolically active tissue, it burns calories, whereas excess fat is just that, it's excess stored energy. So if we're naturally losing muscle mass, it's going to mean that we burn fewer calories at rest, right? Which means our metabolism is slightly slowing down, but it is not 500 calories worth of slowing down. So a lot of people just put themselves in these crazy calorie deficit because they're peri or postmenopausal. They think they need to account for some massive change in their metabolism, and unless you've had something huge happen in your life, so you've gone from, I don't know, being a post person where you were walking like 25,000 steps a day to sitting behind a desk, the change year on year is not going to be really, really big. So my calorie deficit is a modest calorie deficit. Is very slightly below my maintenance. Because as I get closer to the summer and closer to my goals being my summer holiday, but also a photo shoot in July, I want to be able to do something with my calories. I'd rather be able to drop my calories down than try and like shoot my cardio up, for example. So that's where I'm starting. So like I said, if you want my calorie calculator, just message me calorie. And also I do have a guide on how you can lose weight without tracking your food. So let me know if you want that one. Okay. So my first thing is calories. Okay. My second thing is protein. The second big focus for me is protein. And that is partly because of what I've just told you. After the age of 30, our muscle mass declines. In order to try to stop doing that happening as fast, it will naturally occur, but we want to try and prevent it as much as possible. One of the first things that we need to do is eat a high protein diet. Now, lots of women, when they start working with me, they find this really, really difficult. Now, when I tell people my calorie goal, they are really shocked as to how I can eat that much protein, because often when I start working with people, they're barely eating 50 grams a day. And if I tell you mine is more than triple, 50 grams a day, you can see that if you're only eating about 50, that's going to feel quite a lot. The first thing I would suggest women do is aim for 100 plus, 100 grams of protein plus. And by the way, that's not 100 grams of chicken breast. It is the protein contained in that chicken breast, which might not be 100 grams entirely. So you can't just eat one chicken breast and there's your protein for the day. So we want to maintain as much muscle mass as possible, because that's important as we get older. But also protein keeps us full, it keeps us satisfied, it keeps our blood sugar really stable. And when you are peri or postmenopausal, one of the things that you can suffer with is insulin sensitivity, which I'm not going to go into loads of detail about now, but having a high protein diet is really important. So I am making sure that I am eating at the very least 25 grams of protein per meal, and I'll come on to my meals in just a second, so that I can get to my protein target, but normally each of my meals is more than 25 grams of protein. So if I were you wanting to lose 4 or 5 kilograms by the summer, I would make sure you are eating at least 100 grams of protein per day. And then on to meals and how many meals I eat. Right, I actually eat, depending on whether it's a gym day or not, on a non-gym day, I eat 5 meals a day. Breakfast, lunch, dinner and 2 snacks. And on a gym day, I eat 6 meals a day. Pre-workout, breakfast, lunch, dinner and 2 snacks. Okay. Now, why does this work? This works because I'm roughly eating every 3 hours. Okay. I'm roughly eating every 3 hours, which means if I am up at 6 a.m., so this morning I was up at 6, I was in the gym by about 8:45. I'd eaten my pre-workout meal at about 8. Then I had my breakfast when I got back, and then 3 hours later I had my lunch, and then 3 hours after that, which is just before I started recording, I had a snack, and then I'm going out for dinner later, and then I will come back and have my pre-bed snack. It means I've got a good amount of eating. I've got a good opportunity to get my protein in, but also it doesn't ever leave me going longer than about 3 hours between meals. Okay, now you might not need to eat 5 meals. I actually eat 5 small meals every day. My 2 snacks are 0% Greek yogurt, some protein powder and some berries, right? So they're not huge meals. They're about 200 calories each. And it's just a small bowl with 150 grams of 0% Greek yogurt in it and 50 grams of berries and 20 grams of protein powder. So it's not a massive meal. I've just finished that and I'm going out for dinner tonight, so I probably won't eat till about 7 o'clock. That is going to keep me going until 7 o'clock. What does this do? it stabilizes the blood sugar. So, you know, when you have those cravings and all you want is sugar, it stops that from happening. It means that when you get to your next main meal, so when I get to dinner time, I am not going to eat everything in sight because I am not going to be absolutely famished. So adding these two snacks into my meals really helps. It really helps that. Now, we've become a little bit snack obsessed, but what typically we think we need to do is eat lots and lots of diet food as snacks. Popcorn, bars, you know, granola, like, I don't know, Alpen bars or something like that. What else? Rice cakes. Like, we eat these tiny little snacks, and actually you'll find if you really want to have snacks, if you make them a bit bigger, if you base them on protein rather than lots and lots of just little bitty things like popcorn and bars, you will last so much better until the next meal, and you will find your energy levels are much more stable. My kind of between 3 and 4 p.m. Greek yogurt bowl is what stops me from reaching for chocolate and something caffeinated between 3 and 4, which is my natural time for a little slump. Okay, so that's my third thing to tell you, is about how I time my meals. And the specific time that you eat those things is going to depend on your routine and whether or not you're training, which we're going to come on to next. But stop trying to eat as little as possible, because often when you try to eat as little as possible, as few times as possible, or you rely on those diet type snacks, you get to after dinner and you are famished, and then you hit the snacks big time, or you overeat on dinner. And that is what's holding back your progress. Okay, let's move on to training now. If you've been around me, I need a little sip because I'm getting croaky. If you've been in my world for a while, you will know one of the things that I absolutely bang on about is strength training. Okay, don't get me wrong. I love my cardio. I love going for a run with my best friend on a Sunday. I love a little session on my exercise bike or on the stepper in the gym. I love it because it makes me feel good, but that is not what I rely on to get my figure toned, fit and strong. Okay? Now, I'll come on to how I use my cardio to help me with my calories in just a second. But what I want you to hear first is lifting weights will not make you bulky. Lifting weights, if we go back to point number 1, where we want to maintain as much of that muscle mass, because 1, that muscle mass decreases after we're 30. 2, it's a metabolically active tissue. We want to make sure we have as much of it as possible, because it's important for us as we get older, but also the more muscle you have, the more you can actually eat, because it needs calories to be there, right? But strength training is one of the best things you can do for your health as a woman, whether you are 20 years away from perimenopause, whether you are 20 years past being menopausal, and everything in between and outside of that. It is one of the best things you can do for your health, because it will help your bones to stay strong. It will help, should you, and I touch wood that you don't fall over, it will help to prevent those bones from breaking. It will keep you independent for longer. It will help to naturally balance out your hormones. Now, I don't believe in balancing hormones. I don't believe in hormone cleansing or anything like that. But lifting weights is a natural way of allowing our hormones to be healthy. Okay, I'll say it like that. It releases endorphins, it releases dopamine, it makes you feel good, it makes you strong, it makes you fit. And loads of women that come to me say they want to look toned. My love, you can't get toned if you don't lift weights and grow some muscle. If you have never lifted weights, if you have absolutely no muscle tone, you can't look toned. You can't look toned just by going on a diet unless you've already got muscle underneath the fat. So when you say you want to be toned, what you mean is you want to have some visible muscle definition, less fat. And if you've got no muscle definition, you need to build the muscle. So for me, that looks like 4 weightlifting workouts every week. And when I tell you they are weightlifting, I'm not talking about throwing around my 1 kilogram dumbbells. I am lifting heavy weights. And yes, sometimes I do not sweat in those. Most times I do because I'm quite a sweaty beast. But it's not like being on the treadmill for 45 minutes and coming out of the session dripping. Sweat is not fat crying. Please stop thinking that. But you know you've lifted weights. So I want you pushing yourself. I want you lifting heavy. If you don't have a gym membership, you can do this from home. If you don't know by now, I have an online membership and programs, all of which provide you with home workouts. And I also run live home workouts so you can join me live or on replay. If you don't know where to start, it is a great place. But lifting weights, building muscle is super, super important. And I will be doing that 4 days per week. Okay. Now, the cardio part of my plan. So I am walking 10k steps a day. There's no magic number about 10k steps. It just shows that you're being quite active. If you are only averaging about 2,000 steps per day now, try and up that to 4,000. That will be doing you the world of good, okay? But it's really quite easy, she says, then just thinking she should probably look at her watch and double check. Okay, I've got a way to go. I'm on 7,300. But it's quite easy for me to get 10,000 steps. That's my target for the day. I've got a dog. I have to walk him twice a day. So my target is 10,000. My absolute minimum, because I set standards for myself, is 8,000. In terms of cardio, so whether it be my run at the weekend with my friend, whether it be being on my bike or going on the steps, the stepper at the gym, I do about 45 minutes of cardio per week, because what that allows me to do is to, again, keep my calories high, so I don't have to drop my food too much, but also it is good for your heart, it's good for your lungs, it's good for your health. So I do 45 minutes of cardio plus about a 35-minute run with my friend on a Sunday. Okay, so I'm doing just over an hour's worth of cardio every week. Now your steps, you know, I said I do 10,000 steps. Those steps, if you're someone that gets quite, obsessed by your calorie count and stuff and your movement on your smartwatch, those steps are going to be your best friend when it comes to dropping body fat, because they allow you to be more active, and you will get more calorie burn from getting your steps in than you will from doing some kind of 20-minute HIIT workout. You are now, I don't care what your watch says, right? Your watch might say you've burnt more calories, but you're going to get bigger bang for your buck by keeping your steps up, okay? So if ever you need to, you're doing some cardio and you think, well, I haven't got time to get my steps and my cardio, do your steps. Now, here's the big one for me, and it might be quite big for you as well. I class myself as a professional insomniac. Sleep disruption is something that I have suffered with pretty much since I got pregnant with my son, and it has definitely increased in the last 10 years. It's worse when I'm stressed or anxious, and sometimes it's fine. So last week, for example, I had 7 solid days of at least 8 hours sleep every night, and I felt on fire. This week, it's been closer to 7 hours, and sometimes it's slightly below 7 hours, and I definitely feel that. Sleep disruption is something that happens in peri and postmenopause. It happens often because of stress. Sometimes it can be because you need the loo more often, and then once you've got up, you find it hard to switch back off again. I know that's my problem, is my brain just doesn't want to shut down. I'm determined to swear on today's podcast. I keep almost swearing. My brain doesn't want to shut down once I've been woken up, and I do often struggle to get back to sleep once I've been disturbed. But that, and there's things you can do, having a great sleep routine. So for me, I'm really strict about my sleep. I'm really, really strict about the things that I say yes to. So for example, this week, like I said, that my sleep has been a lot less than it was the week before. Now, part of that is because I had a networking evening on Tuesday. I work Wednesday nights, and then it was my last meditation course session on Wednesday this week, so that stopped from now on. Then yesterday, Thursday night, we all went to my mother-in-law's because it was her 70th birthday, and although I wasn't out really late, by the time I got home and did all of the things that I need to do and then did my wind down routine, it was 10 o'clock before I then was switching off the bedside light, and that's too late for me by about 30 minutes, because then it takes me time to fall asleep, and I'm just not getting enough sleep, right? So there's been reasons for it this week, but I know when my sleep is disturbed, I know my energy is less. So every day this week, when I've got to about this time, I've thought, I've still got another 3,000 steps to get, and I'm so tired, I just don't feel like I want to do it. So your energy is less, you're more likely to snack, to pick at food, to overeat, because when you are tired, your ghrelin, that's the hunger hormone, goes up, and your leptin, which is your fullness hormone, goes down. So you are more hungry and you don't recognize fullness as easily. It can make you irritable, more irritable than menopause already is making you. It can make you snappy. It makes me emotional. Those things can lead to us then emotionally eating. So sleep disturbance can make you move less and eat more, that's like the most basic way of saying it. So for me, one of my biggest priorities is sleep and stress management, because the two for me go hand in hand. I'm not going to make this an episode about sleep, but that is one of the things that I'm really focusing on. Now, I mentioned towards the beginning of this podcast that I track my food, and I do. I weigh my food, and yep, sometimes I can eyeball it. If I'm not at my house, I can kind of eyeball something and it's okay. One of the things I want you to think about is, if you are trying to lose body fat, and like me, you'd like to lose, 10 pounds before the summer, often we underestimate how much we are eating, right? So if you are not measuring or weighing things, then you will be underestimating, because it's not that you're lying, it's human nature. There's been studies done on this. It is what humans do. You will be underestimating what you are eating. So my advice to you here is, if you don't want to track your food, but you do want to lose weight, firstly, come and message me, because I've got a resource that will help you to lose weight without tracking. But come to me. No, I've said that. But here's the thing. Really consider how much you are eating. Really consider, the other thing to think about is, don't look at portion sizes on packets, right? Because that's portion sizes as per the average human being. Well, there's a massive difference between me and you. We might be the same height, but are we the same age? Are we the same build? Do we move the same amount? Have we got the same goal even, right? So there is no real average human being, as they say in the BFG. But really consider how much you are eating, and also really consider what you are eating, because a lot of women come to me and they say, but I eat really healthily, I eat really clean. And I say, well, what do you eat? Well, I have eggs, smoked salmon and avocados for my breakfast on some sourdough. Lovely, delicious. I love that breakfast. But do you realise that there's probably about 500 calories in that breakfast alone? And then I have a quinoa and bean salad with some, I don't know, hummus and an olive oil dressing. Okay, great. Again, we're probably talking about 400, 500 calories. And then for dinner, dinner is like 700 calories. And then for my snacks, I have a handful of nuts for my snack. Okay, and that a handful of nuts could be 400 calories. So you think you're eating healthily, and individually those things are healthy because they've got healthful aspects to them. Like nuts, for example, have they're really good healthy fats in them, but healthy eating and eating for fat loss are two different things, because we need to be conscious of calories. So I definitely recommend that you write down what you're eating, or you track it, even if it's for a couple of days. Okay, so let's just recover what I've talked about. Calorie deficit, right? Maintaining and building muscle, consistent daily movement, adequate protein intake, sleep and recovery, and being really aware of what you're putting inside of your body. You do not need to be extreme dieting. You do not need to be doing punishing exercise. You do not need to be starting over every Monday. Consistency in all of these things is going to beat intensity every single time. So that is what I'm doing. That's how I'm going to lose 5 kilograms by the middle of July. I'm going to be documenting this on my social media. I'll talk about it on this podcast. I'll also talk about it on my email list. I will put some resources in the notes of this podcast so that you can use them should you need to. But if you would like to know how I can help you to lose 5 kilograms by the summer, there are 2 ways for you to do that with me at the moment: VIP one-to-one coaching or the Hot Life membership. So again, I'll put the resources in the show notes for you. You can find out more about them, or come and find me on social media or on my website, where you can send me a message and we can have a little chat. Right, it's Friday, it's 4:31. I'm going to press stop recording and go and get ready to go out. Have a gorgeous weekend. Bye.